I want to talk about two games, two monumental games in just gaming history. Landmarks in both horror and survival horror and just horror in general, and they both have been able to skid their way into being one of the landmarks in just pop culture in general. They have movies, they have comics, they have spin-off games and fan films, and they're so important to just a lot of things, including just being good games. I wanted to compare them because a lot of people say that the two biggest landmarks in survival horror is Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Now, I personally am more of a fan of Resident Evil. I've played a bit of Silent Hill. I've played the original 2, 3. I own one on my PlayStation 3. Haven't gotten through it all the way. And there's a remake of it coming out. I plan on beating it probably then. But uh, I wanted to take and compare them. And the issue I ran into is what games could I compare for them? Because it was like, well, I could do their first remakes, but the issue is technically the first remake is on the GameCube, and the first remake of Silent Hill, not including re-releases, bundles, and stuff like that, would be on PS5 and Xbox and PC. Now, while the Resident Evil HD remake has been ported over to PC, I've actually been playing it, and I'm trying to beat it, so that way when Silent Hill 1 gets remade, I can do what I'm doing here to that. But I decided, let's do the first big modern remake of Resident Evil and the first big modern remake of Silent Hill and have them go at each other, and I'll break it down into 7 different categories, and I'll break them down as best as I can and try to say, in my opinion, but still more drawing escape. And I'm gonna try and be way less biased towards Resident Evil because I appreciate Silent Hill, and I can admit when Resident Evil, kind of falls short and where Silent Hill picks it up more. So I wanted to get to compare them. And the 7 categories I have here, I have it on my phone: themes, characters, enemies, setting, story, endings, and then the conclusion of everything. Um, Now, let's just slide right in on it and talk about the themes. The general themes of the games are both, I wouldn't say, Silent Hills is more deep, but Resident Evil is more, you see it a lot more, and you kind of see Silent Hill a lot more, but if we're talking about, like, which of the themes do I feel like most people enjoy more, or just like seeing more of, and that would be, in Silent Hill it's mainly grief, guilt and punishment, and in Resident Evil 2 it is mainly uh, despair, consequences, and it would be like corporate like corruption and citywide corruption, and kind of like a scientific hubris of man, and how kind of like a how far should we go type thing with that. But in my opinion, I feel like Silent Hill plays with it a lot more. It's more center stage. You see it happen more. You do see it in Resident Evil 2 a lot. So but it's more prevalent and it's more there. You can kind of miss a lot of the stuff with Resident Evil 2 and be like, you'll get like the gist of it. But with Silent Hill, it's more up there in your face. And some of that, I will say, does depend on your ending, and I'll get into that. But with the two of them, I would have to say, I'd almost have to go. I'd almost have to go Silent Hill, because Silent Hills, while it's like you could consider it basic, guilt and stuff like that. They play with it super well about like it even plays into everything. It plays into how the punishments affect every character and how like it changes and how it also it's like the reason that Pyramid Head is the way that he is. It is just how it is. It affects the entire realm of Silent Hill as a almost as a character in itself, and it changes depending on your own guilt, grief, and stuff. While Resident Evil, it's more just this is how it is for everyone. Now, while other people it shows differently, like Ada Wong shows the more greedy side of things, and you don't really get much different with Claire. I mean, you get more, I guess, scientific hubris type thing. Like the hubris of man. You see more of them. But other than that, I don't really see. I don't see Resident Evil being able to top out Silent Hill in that aspect. So it will definitely go to Silent Hill for themes. Characters. I feel like the characters in Silent Hill, other than James, isn't that deep. It's the other characters, while you can play a little bit into it and be like a little bit more analytical with it, they aren't that much deeper. A lot of them are like a few notes of things and that's it. And they show up a decent bit, but I would argue that they aren't that much. I don't even think they're any better. I don't think they're better at all than Resident Evil 2. Because while they don't even have real character arcs except for James is just more accepting that of like he did it. Other than that, it's not going anywhere. It's not like he's righting his wrong, or like I mean, he's again depending on the ending. You can have two different James, so it's depending on how you feel playing James. You can either be a complete dick and be like, fuck you, Maria, I don't care. Or you can be like, Maria, I'm sorry. But either way, I would have to say that it would have to go Resident Evil just because Ada, Leon, Claire, they're all so memorable. And yeah, there's more one-note things with the villains, but like even William Birkin with his daughter, there's a lot of character there with like him giving the disease to his daughter, and it turns out that he was trying to like, you know, I think he was trying to make her into like help her out by giving her that, because he took it and Birkin's looking bad, but I would have to say that I would definitely have to say Resident Evil 2 edges it out more than Silent Hill. Like, yeah, James is cool, and I'm gonna keep it honest. Other than Maria, I have such a hard time remembering them, and that might be because I'm a Resident Evil fan. But I hardly remember any of the characters. I remember some of the struggles they go through. I don't remember them much as like characters. I remember they're more like archetypes, like of grief and what they've been through. But other than that, they ain't like they like I don't know what else to say about them. They don't have that much compared to Resident Evil. Resident Evil has like changing of character throughout the entire story, and then Silent Hill just has them. Like, I guess you can be like how they deal with their grief is different, but even then, it's not as, in my opinion, it's not as good. Characters are still good, but I would say the Resident Evil 2 does it better. Oh god. The next one, enemies. Now, with enemies, I'm going to go over design and how they function, like how often you see them, whether they're too annoying, want more balanced, or whatever. They both kind of have a stalker. Silent Hill 2 has like almost only like a looming threat over you, while Resident Evil 2, after a certain point, you have to deal with Mr. X throughout like a good bit of your like, you know, campaign, and then you deal with them a decent bit, and then you've got Silent Hill where Pyramid Head's kind of just like showing up, saying, "Hey, what's up? How you doing, man?" And then that's pretty much it. Other than that, with the looming characters, if we're gonna, okay, this is the issue. I, in good faith, cannot say that Mr. X is better than like Pyramid Head, just because Pyramid Head was so iconic that he left his canonical reason for existing and just is in everything. He's in what was it? Silent Hill fucking Homecoming, which he shouldn't even be there because he's entire thing is with James. So like, why are you here? I think even in Downpour he's kind of there because they kind of try to do like an origin story with him being a butcher and whatever. But I could be wrong with it. I could be horribly wrong. But 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 then you get the zombies, and I think the problem is with Resident Evil is we see so many zombies that when you compare it to like the mannequin leg people and the nurses and the weird dudes that scurry on the ground and like spit acid at you, it has to go to Silent Hill. Now, while Birkin and some of the others, in my opinion, are some of the greatest designed monsters in gaming, I don't think that they can edge out the sheer just coolness and like creativeness that some of these Silent Hill just enemies have. I will say the one thing that does suck about Silent Hill, especially the remake, because we're talking about the remakes here, there are too many enemy spawns. I run into too many. I remember I walked into this one room after dealing with two, and there was four, and I went, bro, and the thing is with this, in order to get the good ending, you're supposed to not kill as many. The enemies are like the biggest assholes. They will purposely chase after you and not leave you the fuck up. They come through doors. The zombies in Resident Evil, they have a limit to how far they can go. They can't chase you through all RPD. That's an asshole move. You can pretty reliably, you can just walk past them and just be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then Silent Hill, you try and do that, and it's like, "Oh, you tried to progress without fighting us?" It's that scene in JoJo Part 5 where they beat the hell out of that guy who's just while they're drinking tea. You are getting jumped, sir. There are enemies coming from one door continuously, and you don't have enough ammo, even though that's the reason you don't want to fight them. You gotta beat fucking 50 of them to death with a lead pipe. But anyway, other than that, which again, oh my god, and like that, Resident Evil 2 is a lot more generous with its enemy placements. Like, yeah, you can kind of tell when one of the zombies is gonna come back because it's just slouching on the wall, and you're like, I can shoot you as many times as I want, but you're gonna come back, aren't you? Yeah, that's exactly what happens. But in that aspect, I hate to say it, Silent Hill gets it. Silent Hill gets it overall just because of the enemy variety and how cool they are. The bosses have a lot of differing designs, and I think it's because they're not limited by the fact that it's mainly bioorganic shit, which is what Resident Evil 2 is limited by. Resident Evil 1 gets more goofy, and that would be more fair to get to because it's like that one you have like giant fucking snakes, but we're talking about 2 here. So point goes to Silent Hill. And then we've got the setting. I'm gonna keep it honest. I think Silent Hills, while Silent Hill itself is iconic and the fog is iconic, I would say that RPD is just more fun of a setting. Over time, you're not even, yeah, you're in the town, but you're more in a building in the town. I spent more time in the fucking, like, school than I did the streets, which I think, I get it. You know, when you say Silent Hill, or you think of, like, when you think of Silent Hill, you imagine a dark fog and, like, roaming through it and stuff like that in the streets. But in reality, you spend, like, at most, maybe 15% of the game, maybe, in the streets, and then the rest is in buildings, which I get it. How much else can you do with the streets? But come on, you guys, they're so creative with it. I feel like they could have done more with it. And not that, well, sorry, it's more of a school and a hospital and stuff like that. So yeah, they do vary it. Like it does vary, but it's not enough to where it's like RPD. You've got a police station. You've got the graveyard outside the police station. You got the underground labs. You've got so much that they play with because it's more than just a police station. It's an umbrella underground corporation. Like it is. It's cool with it, but anyway, with that, I would have to say this is the easier one than the other ones. Silent Hill, I'm sorry, but Resident Evil gets it. Um, Story, ugh, ugh, ugh. That sounds a bit more hard, but oh God, oh, which one do I give it to? Because while I'm gonna say that I prefer Resident Evils over, but that's only because I feel like actually I don't know. Oh, I feel like they're both so close, but like Silent Hills gets so like entangled in the web of like in the head stuff that it kind of gets away from me at times, while Resident Evil usually keeps it to a confined space and it is easier to understand. So this one is more personally preferable. Uh, oh, I have to go with Resident Evil. Only because I feel like the story is a lot more understandable and the characters are a lot less. Uh, they're more there almost. Like, yeah, Silent Hill has them, but they're more individualized, while the characters in like the stories and the characters of the people in Resident Evil 2 are more intertwined. I would have to say that that would mean that Resident Evil edges it out only because of that. Now, this one is a lot more subjective than the others. I'll give you that. And this is more of a recency, not recency, of a preference thing. And I've already said I prefer Resident Evil. But I do love Silent Hill. It is like a little brother. I do like it. But still, it has to go, in my opinion, to Resident Evil. This one, unlike the other, is super easy. Endings. Technically, there's only two in fucking Resident Evil, and I felt like it'd be fair to talk about them since they both have multiple endings. But the only difference is that who you play as in Resident Evil, and it pretty much plays out the same, except for the end boss is just Birkin, I think. Yeah, it's Birkin, and you just shoot him like a couple times, and then he just fucks off, and you derail the train, and he's like, oh, and then he gets nuked with thermal detonated with the rest of the RPD and the rest of the city. But then you've got Silent Hill. How many endings does Silent Hill have? Silent Hill 2. It is 8. Yeah, it has 8. And I'm gonna be honest, they're a lot cooler from James like challenging the old gods to him killing himself with his wife, and then him like leaving the city with the town with his wife to just, I mean, it's a runaway victory for Silent Hill. It's not even fair to Resident Evil. It's just theirs. So point goes to Silent Hill. So conclusion, let's tally up the marks here. Themes. So I just tallied them up, and they are equal. So I'll do this. I'll leave it up to you guys. Here's what I'll do. Which one do you guys think is more deserves the badge more of being better? Now, while I kind of cheated and made it up to interpretation, I will say in terms of the second game, I will give it to Silent Hill. I like Resident Evil 2, but I feel like Silent Hill 2 is more the landmark in the space of Silent Hill, while Resident Evil 2, while it does expand on everything that Resident Evil 2 did, or 1 did, including the remake, and it expanded on it and made it even better, I would have to say that Silent Hill 2, being its first, has to get it. Now, I get it. They both are like, the first in the modern era to do those big remakes, but I have to say it's Silent Hill 2. Now, while I enjoy Leon and the rest of the gang better, I have to give it. I get it, it was even, but me personally would say that. But what would you guys say? Leave it down below, and I'll read them, and I'll see you guys later.